Tim Dutton, and you're here at the Southampton Boat Show, and now normally people come here to buy a boat, but you can do both here. You've got a car and all in one package.
A boat and a car, so you get two for the price of one.
Now, I thought this was all James Bond when you watch the movies and you see him driving off and he goes straight into the water, but no, they are existing and you can buy one here.
That's right. Well, the James Bond one, of course, it goes underwater, and we spend all our time designing them so they stay on the top. Anybody can make a car go underwater.
Which is certainly a good thing. And how long have you been in business, Dutton? So you're based down in Littlehampton, is that right?
Littlehampton. Well, I've been manufacturing kit cars since 1969, so we're actually celebrating 50 years of vehicle manufacture this year. And I've been making amphibious cars since 1995. In 1995, I woke up one day and I thought, I'm going to start making an amphibious car because I live in Worthing, I spend my life water skiing and all this sort of stuff. And I just spend all the money and do it.
When you came up with the idea of amphibious cars, was it because you've seen them around? They're local, there are a lot about? Because these are the first ones I've ever been up close to, apart from when I mentioned James Bond, but yeah. They go under.
I've never seen an amphibious car. I've seen photos, and this was the problem with designing it, is that you can't go into your local library and say, have you got a book on how to make amphibious cars, because there's nothing. The first ones we made, the jet was powered hydraulically, and even if you go to the library and read a book on hydraulics, it doesn't really tell you how to make an amphibious car jet work. So there's an awful lot of hit and miss, but we got it right eventually.
So the main challenges to get this to the working model and the types you see out on the water that you have here, what were the main challenges ahead?
Well, the only major challenge is that it has to comply with all the vehicle regulations like construction and use. So you can't have it pointy at the front and go around harpooning pedestrians on the road, that sort of thing. So it all has to comply with vehicle regulations, and it has to comply with quite a lot of marine regulations as well. So that was the problem, because some of the regulations between car and boat, they contradict each other. So it's all a bit sort of, hit and miss.
As we have the door here, you can see it's slightly elevated to the conventional door, so a bit of climbing in, a bit like the Dukes of Hazzard, but not through the window. And we can see inside here you've got the sat navigation and all the marine equipment.
This is a completely standard Suzuki dashboard, except this part here, which has got the bilge for the bow and the cab, fuse box. We've got a depth gauge just for a bit of fun. You don't really need that. And on the ones that we sell to companies, they're more interested in how many hours it's run, rather than how many miles. So we fit an hour meter.
So is it two engines, or is it just the one engine that propels the vehicle on the road as well as on the water?
It's just one engine that runs for the road and on the water as well. Because I always think, if someone says, well, why don't you put an outboard on the back? Well, it's not an amphibious car then, it's just a car that floats with an outboard on the back. So the whole point of an amphibious is that you've got one engine and it does both jobs. Because I think amphib is Greek for two lives or something, so that's why you get the word amphibious, because it does two things, water and land.
Obviously the outboards and marine engines rely on the sea for the cooling, but you've got it all there under the bonnet.
That's right, yeah. So we don't have a problem with overheating.
Should I call it the bow?
The pointy bit. It doesn't really make much difference because it's slapping the seat back. And that's as far as it goes. No, it's that one there, so you can't really see it unless you could jump in if you like, but it's that one there, the red one. People can come to the factory. After the show, they can phone up, book an appointment. Our factory is in Littlehampton. We're actually on the River Arun, in an old factory where they used to make lifeboats, and it's got its own slipways. So on a hot sunny day like this, we have all the doors open, and the slip goes right down into the water. So if we suddenly want to go out, we can just go straight out in the Arun.
And how popular are they?
Sort of about 300 so far. Nothing like the volume that we did with the kit cars. We made over 8,000 cars in 20 years, but that was a different era.
Do they come in a one design, or is there several that you can choose from?
We've got two amphibious vehicle models. The yellow one is based on the four-wheel drive Suzuki Jimny with the 1300 petrol engine, and the other car, the white one, is based on the Mark 7 Fiesta, which is the current one, which is 1600, but that's two-wheel drive.
Now, you mentioned about kit cars. You put them together yourself, or is it something that the hobbyist could actually do themselves?
About half the cars we sell as kits, so the customer buys a kit from us, buys a donor vehicle and builds the whole thing up. The other half we do the whole lot. People that haven't got the time or the inclination to get their nails dirty and what have you, they pay for us to do the whole lot.
You mentioned a couple of brands, but is there a specific donor vehicle that you have to be looking for?
Yes, we only make them, the yellow one for the Suzuki Jimny and the white car for the Ford Fiesta.
And they're four-seaters, so you can take the family out and hit the road as well and go off. Would you take this into the sea, or is it more for the river?
Oh, I've crossed the channel twice in this yellow one. I've done Dover, Calais and Folkestone, Boulogne, which is a bit boring because it takes about 6 or 7 hours to get there. So you leave Dover and you can see France in the distance, and you just hold the steering wheel dead straight for 6 hours. It gets a bit tedious, but you get there eventually. So I've done it twice.
Fuel economy, are they for miles per gallon, are they better on the road or better in the water?
On the road it's pretty much the same. It's just like driving a normal car, and as far as on the water is concerned, we've never really measured it. It's like that old adage when in the old days, if you went to Rolls-Royce and said, what does the car do to the gallon? If you have to ask that question, you can't afford the car.
Do you get any particular looks when you're coming into a harbour and obviously you're looking for the slipway and you just drive up it? There's nobody there to take out the trailer, you just drive.
Everybody looks there. Everyone's got mobile phones nowadays, and it doesn't matter what river you go down, everyone's got their cameras and all clicking. And even people that have seen this at Littlehampton lots of times, you still look. It's just one of those things that you just watch.
So I'm sure when you do a search on looking for these cars that actually take to the water, you must be quite a star of the media now.
Well, if you type in amphibious cars, you'll get Duttons most probably, because we're the only company that's actually making them at the moment. So it's the ultimate in niche marketing.
Car insurance, how does that work out? And tax, is it any cheaper, or is it about average?
The road tax is the same, 1,300 and 1,600 as a normal car. As far as insurance is concerned, as far as road tax is concerned, you can do what's called a classic car, and it's normally limited mileage. So if you say you do less than 3,000 miles a year, it's a lot less expensive than just having, normal insurance. So most people go for the limited mileage.
50 years in the business, and how did it all start for you? What was the interest that got you going?
Well, my mother owned a pub in Worthing, which is sort of 50 miles down the road, and I started just making cars on the forecourt, and someone noticed me, and they wanted a Lotus 7, because they were still sold by Lotus in those days, and he just stopped and said, I want to buy a Lotus 7 kit, will you build it for me? So we went up to Norfolk, picked it up, I built it, and I thought, I'll have a go at manufacturing something like that. So I started making two-seater sports cars and went from 1969 to 1989, and then I sold up, and I've been doing these amphibious cars since 1995.
And your employment, how many people do you take on at your factories?
Well, when I was banging out the kit cars, I had 80 staff and 4 factories. I mean, some years we were turning out 20 cars a week. I mean, we were absolutely huge. Now I've only got a handful of staff, and we do about 10 cars a year. So I would say it beats working doing this. It's more like a hobby.
It's not a bad hobby, is it, to have? And if anyone wants to find out more about the cars and how much it's going to cost them, how they can get involved, where would you recommend they go for websites and media?
It's just timdutton.com. It's that, and everything's on that, prices, more photographs. Or if you just want to see lots of customers that have been using them, just type amphibious car into YouTube and you'll get hundreds of video shots.
And if you want to come down to the boat show this week, very close to the Southampton Swim Complex, you're in the centre of the arena here, and people can come, sit in the car and find out more. Tim, thank you for joining us, and it's been a pleasure to find out so much about a car that you can take to sea.
Great, and thanks for bringing the sunny weather.
It's part of Southampton. We're always sunshinies.
Great. Okay, thanks.